So we're moving to number 6, report, signing authorities. Melanie, you have the report?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor Jordan. So I wanted to just provide a few opening remarks to the report you're reviewing today. I did listen very attentively to Council's discussion last Monday night, wanting some additional information on bank signing authorities. And this past week, I've done a comprehensive review and done my best to document and answer all of those questions for you in the report that's in front of you today. So the report in front of you provides a history of signing authorities from prior to March 30th and everything from March 30th to today. It also includes a recommended amendment to the bylaw to allow the town to move forward. So I want to acknowledge that through the past week, it's clear that there are some inconsistencies between documentation that existed compared to what was actually occurring. And so for full and transparent disclosure, I've put all of that, outlined all of that in Appendix B to the report for you today, so you could see all the different documents that existed and how the signing authorities were laid out in those documents. I do want to note for council that there were inconsistencies found both before March 30th as well as during the transition. This wasn't something that just occurred in the past few weeks. If you look at the existing state on March 30th, there were some inconsistencies in the documentation at that date as well. And I want to be really clear for council today that those inconsistencies are in the documents. So between the bylaw that the bank had on file versus the bylaw that council had approved, or between the signing authorities that the bank had on file and the bylaw. These are not inconsistencies in action. I did go back as your treasurer and review all of the payments that have been made between March 31st and today, and I did not see anything out of order. Actions of staff on March 31st to update those signing authorities with the bank and ensure that staff members could sign checks and release electronic fund transfers. While they were inconsistent with your bylaw, they were reasonable and did ensure that the town could continue to make payments for goods and services during this transitional period. So I'm hoping that in the report will prove useful to council, but I'm certainly happy to answer any questions on the history. What I'd like to outline from here is how we can move forward and ensure that all of our documentation is aligned from here on out. So in essence, we want to make sure that our bylaws agree to what is on file with the bank and as well as what all staff are doing on a day-to-day basis. So in order to give council comfort that the bylaw in front of you today is appropriate, we did seek legal counsel. And legal counsel has reviewed the amended bylaw as is presented to you in Appendix A, and they have confirmed that retroactive application of this bylaw to March 30th is appropriate and that there's nothing in the Municipal Act that doesn't allow council to do that. As your treasurer, I also want to assure you that I've reviewed the segregation of duties in the payment process, which currently includes the manager of procurement, both the past few weeks as well as going forward, and I see no control weaknesses. So when reviewing segregation of duties, it's important to consider all steps in the process. Bank signing is just one step in that process. We've gone back and looked at everything from how payments are entered, who enters them, who can set up vendors, and there is no weakness in that. We have appropriate segregation of duties in our process. I did discuss all of this with our external auditors as well, via phone conversations and confirmed via emails, and they agreed with my recommendations. So I wanted to share that context with you and to let you know that the bylaw, that's the amendment to the bylaw that's in front of you this evening in Appendix A, will allow the town to move forward in a clear and consistent way. So making sure that the bylaws on file for the town as well as everything that's on file with the bank are consistent and allows us to move forward and continue executing business of the town. So those are my opening remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions or provide any clarifications as required.
Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. And thank you, Melanie, for making the efforts to get it right, because had we passed this bylaw at the last meeting, it would not have been correct. And as I identified some serious concerns there, you've also mentioned that there's some new internal controls put in place The bylaw has now correctly identified the chief executive officer instead of town manager, as well as the positions that are delegated going to be delegated as any manager position within finance, not recognizing that the manager of procurement is not a manager of finance, which was one of the questions that came up at the last discussion. I think it's very important that we go back to how this happened and what actions were taken on March 31st. And that's the most serious concern that I have, because regardless of the legal document that provides that a bylaw can be retroactive, as long as it doesn't contravene any other federal, provincial, or any other types of legislation or laws. And the bank, as most banks do, has a corporate resolution document that would have had to have been signed by members of staff in order to invoke the signing authorities. And that document that the bank asks the signing officers to sign when they change names on it clearly says that the signing officer is attesting to the fact that that there's a true copy of a resolution duly passed by the board of directors of the corporation, and that this resolution is now in force and effect and unamended. So they're basically signing that the town, as council, as a corporation, has passed a resolution to affect these signing officers. So on March 31st, when the staff person signed these banking resolutions and changed the names, they did not have the authority to do so. And I don't know who directed them to do so, but the document that's a legal document at the bank was signed without council's corporate resolution being passed. And they attested to that on I think 2 occasions, March 31st and April 6th. So there's a legal requirement that we did not meet here, that whoever put this in place, the CAO or whoever, did not consult with council immediately, did not pass a resolution by council prior to these staff persons going to sign and change and amend the names on that on the signing officers. And the other thing to be I'm very concerned about is the only person who technically could even have gone and done that on those dates would have been the mayor, because as the lawyer, as John Maskrin has said, the only bylaw that is in force and in place was 1637. And the only person who still had signing authority at that time under that bylaw is the mayor, nobody else. So that's the most serious concern, is that some staff were directed to go sign these documents and attest to them legally as being truthful, that a corporate resolution had been passed by council on those dates and there had not been one in force. I would also ask, Melanie, if you also observed the actual resolutions yourself. Did you see all the banking documents yourself?
So through the mayor, I did review all of the emails that went back and forth with the bank. Being remotely, I saw the scanned signatures that were sent to the bank on those dates to set up those signing authorities. And I would comment that the staff that put this in place on March 31st did have a lengthy conversation with the bank on how the best way to proceed given the situation for the corporation. And they did talk with the bank about the town clerk being a municipally enforced position, and that was appropriate to put them as signing authority. And that based on our existing bylaw, the most senior person in finance, therefore the acting director of finance on March 31st, was the manager of procurement. And we felt that both those pieces, or staff felt that both those pieces were appropriate proxies. And the bank accepted that conversation and accepted those signing authorities at that time. I agree completely that that is, not necessarily perfect dotting of I's and crossing of T's, and there are inconsistencies there. But the staff that did sign those documents on March 31st, being the town clerk and the manager of procurement, in my opinion, did do so in good faith.
I'm not sure who directed them to do so, but the bank cannot tell them to sign. And the bank cannot tell them to attest to something that is falsified. Okay, so I can't imagine that they would have said, they probably said, yeah, you can be a signing officer, no problem. But without knowing what the corporate resolution was and what council had passed or not passed, and I don't know if that was provided to them, to the bank. So, you know, it's not on the bank to tell our staff how to complete this form properly. It's up to our CIO and our staff to understand what they're attesting to. So no, I have a serious concern about, you know, who, you know, you can't say that the bank said it was okay. We have an obligation as council to ensure that whatever our staff do is within the framework of the highest financial scrutiny. The other thing I have is you mentioned that you had seen all the documents. So what date were you actually put on as a signing officer? The 6th or the 7th?
April 6th is when council passed the motion to appoint me as treasurer, and April 7th, we emailed the bank and I signed a signature card on April 7th.
Was your name added on the 6th or not?
On the 7th.
And you'll attest to that,
Yes.
that the two staff persons did not sign a banking resolution on the 6th?
I do not believe so. Not that I've seen. We just simply signed a new bank signature card and had my name added on the 7th. That was the addition of me as the treasurer onto the banking documents.
Okay, just want to, because you said you've seen all the documents, so you would have seen something signed by the clerk and Suzanne Madden on the 6th, if it was there then, with your name on it.
Yes, so the documents that went back to the bank on April 7th was my signature card with my name and Suzanne and the clerk authorizing my addition to the banking agreement.
Just a clarification there, was that April 6th or April 7th? That's what I'm confused about.
It's April 7th. So April 6th in the evening, that's when council had their meeting. So Tuesday, April 6th is when I was appointed as treasurer. And so the next day we reached out to the bank and had my name added to the documentation. So it occurred on April 7th.
So you're saying there's no corporate resolution at the bank dated April 6th with Suzanne Matter and Sarah Kim's name on it with your name added?
I do not believe so, though their names would have been added on March 31st. So
Okay.
Suzanne and Sarah Kim were added on March 31st, and I was added on April 7th.
I think there's a conflict there. I'll just leave that with you because I don't believe that's what the bank has on file. Okay. And that would be interesting because if your name was put on the 6th, as you know, we didn't pass it until the evening of April 6th, right? So that would be correct.
And I know for a fact that was not the case, Counselor, because I didn't go in to sign an actual signature card until Wednesday. So I was in isolation on Monday and Tuesday, so I did not drive into the town until Wednesday. So I know that my signature could not have been on file prior to the Wednesday when I did sign a signature card.
Okay.
So Mayor, she said a few times it's April 7th when she signed it.
Thank you. I was
All
asking.
right, thank you, CEO.
Yeah, I was asking about the corporate resolution documents at the bank and what dates those were. So that's fine. Thank you. The only other thing I would like to suggest is that the motion as it's the recommendations that are being put forward to us tonight are asking for us to retroactively approve these signing authorities, which is validating something that in my mind would be validating actions that were taken by the CEO or by staff that were inappropriate at the time, according to the best financial practices. And I wouldn't agree with that. I will recommend if the clerk would look at amending the bylaw to date it effective April the 26th. And I would have no problem with saying effective April 26th, that the bylaw would be in place. So I will leave that with the clerk to see whether that motion can be amended to do that. Thank you.
CIO, did you want to speak again?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, if I may. I want to be sure that when you ask who directed the staff to look into this on March 31st, it was myself. I'm fully responsible and accountable to ensure that morning when we met as a team to eliminate all operational risk and look at the most logical two people to be the signatories at that time with the bank to avoid any emergencies or risks in the operations. So the most logical person was, of course, the town clerk, because she's statutorily appointed and signs all sorts of legal documents and contracts on behalf of the municipality, and the most senior finance person at that time. So looking at a significant change like this that morning, I did make that call, and I'm totally accountable. But I will say we didn't drop the ball on any of the operations, and things ran smoothly from that perspective. So I just wanted to be sure that I was the one accountable counselor in there. Thank you.
Councillor Vane.
I have a question for John Mascaron. John, are you there still?
Yes, I am. Sorry about that, Councillor Vane. Yes.
Yeah, no problem. My quick question is, you've just heard everything that was said. Do we have any concerns here, or are we okay to pass this bylaw the way it is with April 6th? I don't have a concern, but I just want to get your opinion.
Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor Vane, clearly the municipality has the ability to put in place a retroactive bylaw, and doing so to the date, whether it's March 31st or April 6th, or I've forgotten the date. You can certainly do that, and it would, in fact, authorize all actions as of that date. There's nothing in the Municipal Act or elsewhere that I can find that would preclude council from doing so.
Thank you for that clarification, John. I appreciate the legal opinion.
Just a further clarification to that, John. Much like the CAO asked me to call a special council meeting tonight, would it have been much more open, transparent, and cleaner to have the CAO ask me on March 31st or April 1st to actually get this together and get this all cleaned up then, in your opinion?
Mr. Mayor, that certainly could have happened, and would it have made things maybe a little bit more clear, and there wouldn't have had to be the need for retroactive application? Certainly, I can't argue with that comment.
Thank you. Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I think we're treading on very dangerous territory here, because we're setting a precedent. We all know that it's council that has the authority, only council that has the authority to authorize the signing signatures for the bank. We just said, by passing this bylaw tonight, we're setting a precedent for anything going forward, that the CAO can just direct anybody to go to the bank or wherever he wants to do on behalf of council. He doesn't speak for council. So yes, I agree with Mayor Jordan. I mean, there was nothing stopping the CAO from calling the mayor or going to the bank with the mayor to sign off those things, because I think that the CAO also has signing authority. But the thing is, you could have called the mayor, we could have called a special meeting, and we could have sorted this out immediately. Instead, here we are a number of weeks later, still talking about it. And I do not believe, even though it may not say so in the Municipal Act, and John, John Mascaron, I've got your book here, and you're right, it's not in there. But I can have a problem with that, because in the corporate world, for example, you don't backdate invoices. You don't backdate sales orders. You don't try to cheat the system at the end, so that you have a better quarter, or your financial records are looking good to the shareholders. That's not the way it works. So all of a sudden, we're making this what I call a faux pas by allowing this to happen, and I don't think we should. I think we need to call a halt to it right here. I do have a couple of questions for John, if I could. I mean, are you there, John?
Yep.
Is this consistent with our fiduciary duties? To pass a resolution like this. I mean, we're sworn to uphold those fiduciary duties, and I feel right now, by us allowing this to happen and just willy-nilly signing off, something that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago, backdated, is just not in accordance with what we swore on oath to. So I have a problem with that. I'd like your comments on that, John, if you don't mind.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor Frake. First of all, Councillor Frake, I don't believe it's a backdating. I believe it's simply giving ratification to the actions that staff may have taken.
We're backdating authorities. That's what we're doing. You can't say it's not backdating. Of course it's backdating.
Mr. Mayor, through you, I disagree with that language. I would suggest to you, and in my opinion, it is not backdating. It is simply giving retroactive effect, ratification to the actions that that staff have taken in order to protect risk to the municipality. And I'm not also going to agree, Councillor Frey, that this is setting a precedent. I think, quite honestly, the comments that I've heard so far is I think you're making it abundantly clear that you do not want this to happen again. And so I think, if anything, you're setting a precedent that this will not happen again, as opposed to saying, oh, okay, and to borrow your words, I don't think it's a willy-nilly approval that you're giving tonight. I think you're giving some very serious consideration to what you're about to do or not to do. I see this all the time, quite honestly, with all sorts of things that maybe actions have been taken in order to ensure that there is no harm, no other risk attendant to the municipality, and the council says, okay, we are now ratifying those actions. It happens more frequently than you would think.
And follow up to that, I mean, we've actually sent people to the bank who kind of gave false statements. I mean, that they were signing authorities or set up signing authority when they didn't have the authority to do that. I mean, how do you speak to that?
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, it was done so. In fact, I was asked, what can we do? And I had, I believe at the time, an indication that the bank would authorize this, would indicate that this would be an appropriate act to do. And in fact, the bank could have said, no, we're just not accepting this at this time. The bank indicated, yeah, we will accept this on this basis, recognizing that council had to possibly come back to ratify the actions. If you don't do it, then you don't do it. But I believe that the bank had clearly that they weren't telling you what to do. I think they were indicating that they would understand. They understood what was happening, and that they would agree to doing this, knowing that it could be all put in place and in order by the ratification of council at a future date.
Well, I mean, then maybe we should be questioning the bank's process as well. I mean, because they just accepted it. They accepted it without approval of council. So should we not be questioning the bank's actions as well? It's a question for John.
Oh, I'm not sure. Councilor Frank, I think the bank was just trying to work with you. I was just trying to work with the customer. Suppose you could go back to the bank and say to them, how did you possibly accept this? I think they would have said, we would have thought that you would ratify it at a future date.
Well, anyways, it's a simple solution is turned into a very complicated one, and a very obviously difficult situation for everybody to handle here. So anyways, I think we should alter the resolution or the bylaw as per Councillor Bothwell's suggestions. So I'll leave it at that, and maybe I'll come back for a second round later. Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
CAO, your hand's still up. Did you want to speak?
Yes, Mayor, if I may, just a few comments on timing. So on March 31st, I made the conscious decision that the 2 signatories be approved by the bank. But also, if you look at timelines, the key thing was to get a treasurer appointed. So we did that together within 3 business days. A treasurer was appointed on April the 6th. I knew that when we brought in the treasurer, I wanted her to look at not only going forward on issues, but also looking back. And as Melanie has advised you that she's looked back at everything that was done from March 31st on, and found everything to be in order. All the best interest to eliminating the operational risk at the time. This was a big, large, extraordinary change, and we had to act quickly. So as far as timing, I felt I moved as quickly as I could. And, could I have done better for sure, but I didn't have a treasurer on board till April the 6th, and I wanted to work with that individual to ensure that we did everything right going forward and back. Thank you.
Councillor Cadwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Jordan. And I'm just going to be brief. I just wrote down 3 comments. I'll be reading through them. I voted to defer the original resolution to get a better clarification to the resolution with regards to the banking signing authorities and any potential risk to the town. This report states that the formal legal opinion approving a bylaw with retroactive application date back to March 30th. The bank worked with staff through the transition, showing everything is in order. I found this report to be objective and factual, and I will be supporting this staff report. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Councillor Dunstall.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of comments. Very happy with Melanie's report. It's very thorough, and she's done a great job at bringing us up to date. Happy with the explanation that our CAO has given us, and quite happy to vote for the resolution the way it is. I do not see we need to amend it. We've had good legal advice here too, and I don't see what's wrong with the way the motion is. So I'll be voting for it the way it is.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. The first one is for CAO Schlang. Why didn't you contact the mayor? Because that's sort of your first primary contact and the most logical step. Why didn't you take that step?
CAO.
Through you, Mayor. I was looking purely at the operations. I'm in charge of the operations. My main worry was the operational risk at the time. So in evaluating and assessing everything quickly on that morning, I just felt I had to move forward operationally, and I'm in charge of the operations. It was by no means a way to ignore the mayor. So it was just there was a lot of moving parts at that time, and I had to move quickly to make sure there was no operational risk. But as far as the 2 signatories I selected, I stand by those. The most senior finance person.
I understand that. It just seems to me that the most logical choice, that you disregarded the mayor, and that is inappropriate to my mind. That would have made this much cleaner. He should be your main point of contact. And just saying, I take full responsibility doesn't make it right. And I'm very disappointed in the actions that you took when something that's so simple, where you could have just contacted the mayor and it could have been rectified. The mayor's always available. So that's one thing. 2, I'm not comfortable signing things retroactively. And what's worrisome, I mean, I don't know the next thing you're going to do and say, mea culpa, I take full responsibility, and now let's just sign this retroactively so we can go forward with whatever I've done. I'm not comfortable with that at all. I don't see why we don't just make this clean now and just move forward with today's date. And I guess my final question is for Melanie Steele, our treasurer. Have you discussed this matter with any of the councillors prior to this meeting? And if so, who have you talked with about it?
The only counselor that reached out to me was Councillor Cadwell, and he reached out yesterday to ask a few clarification questions on the report, which I answered, and that's the only counselor that I've spoken to. Obviously, last week we worked together with Mayor Jordan. We were doing some check signatures, and we included him in that process. So he would have been, received some of these briefings verbally last week through that process, but those are the only 2 counselors I spoke with.
Yeah, and what about emails?
I have no emails on this matter between any counselors and myself.
All right, thank you.
Counselor Sharp.
Thanks, Mayor Jordan. I'd like to call the question.
Under our procedural bylaws, before everyone's spoken twice, we need a 2/3 vote to call the question. So we need to vote on that.
And sorry, Mayor Jordan, should my motion not be on the floor as well? And then for
Yes, yes, that's correct as well.
I'd like to call the question.
We know. Yeah.
That motion precedes the question, right?
What motion?
A motion to amend the bylaw to ratify the appointments as of April 26th, not March 30th.
That was on the
Is that a
floor,
motion?
Councilor Sharp.
Was it
It was on the
seconded?
floor.
It was
It wasn't seconded,
it was asked to be drafted, to be presented.
but it wasn't seconded. And clerk, I asked to call the question. Which comes first?
Okay. So yeah. So the clerk has just told me procedurally, the motion to call the question goes first. So we vote on that first. It needs 2/3 to pass. All right, I have a mover, Councilor Sharp, need a seconder to call the question. Councilor Bain. Moved by Councilor Sharp, second by Councilor Bain, resolved that the main motion be called to question. And that requires a 2/3 and it's a recorded vote.
Councillor Bothwell,
No.
Councillor Dunstall,
Yes.
Councillor Frake,
No.
Councillor Cadwell,
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie,
Yes.
Councillor Sharp,
Yes.
Councillor Vane,
Yes.
Councillor Vardy,
No.
Mayor Jordan,
No.
that's defeated.
So now we move to the amendment.
And I'll second that amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Frake. Councillor Ritchie, you'd like to speak on that?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just another question to our treasurer. So in your review, you did not find any wrongdoings whatsoever. Everything seems to be in order, and now we're looking to move forward. Is that correct?
So through the mayor, what I did in my review is I looked at every payment and check that was issued from March 31st to today. I validated that against appropriate backup. I confirmed that the people who were signing were appropriate based on the operational situations. So I didn't notice anything through review of all of those payments through this time period that were inappropriate. Obviously, I've outlined, the inconsistencies between the bylaw and what was happening. But when I look at the substance of what was done as far as signing checks or electronic fund transfers, there was nothing that stood out to me as inappropriate.
Thank you. So with you stating that and having our legal here stating that everything seems to be in order and good, I won't be supporting this amendment. I will be supporting the report as is. Thank you.
Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. In response to Councillor Ritchie and back to Melanie, it's not the wrongdoing that bothers me, it's what wasn't done that bothers me. And we didn't follow the procedures that are in place. And that's why I would like to endorse this amendment by Councillor Bothwell. So it's not the wrongdoing, it's what wasn't done and should have been done procedurally. I just want to make that clear and that's so that the public knows that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Sharp, I think you're next.
Can we call a question?
We'll vote to call the question again because only one person has spoken on it. So, or two people have spoken on it. So we can vote again to call the question. You're welcome to put another resolution forward to call the question. Yeah.
No, I withdraw. But I do want to say, so this dialogue that's going on here seems to me like a bit of a witch hunt. And, you know, staff has just done their best to make sure that the paychecks get paid and that the business of the town can move forward in a change of our organization. And I see some councillors who, in my opinion, already disapprove, that are just trying to throw mud around. It's my opinion. And I want to just get to the question. And I want to just pass this resolution.
Point of order, I don't.
Councillor Vardy, it's fine.
Point of order.
Councillor Vardy, it's overruled. He's welcome to his opinion.
Throwing mud around?
You know what? It's his opinion, and
Yeah, it's a
and
common term.
he's already calling the question. He doesn't want debate on it, in my opinion. So he wants to lessen the debate on this subject, and I think it's very important to have a full and open debate. We're almost a month later, and we haven't solved something that could have been solved April 1st. We actually had a special council meeting on April 1st. Something could have been done then to at least put a stopgap in for those days between March 30th and April 6th, when we had a corporate resolution with the TD Bank, but we didn't have a council resolution to back up that corporate resolution.
So just Mayor Jordan, before you cut me off, I just was saying, then you mentioned,
witch hunt. Yeah, that's what you're saying.
yeah, and then you mentioned that this has been like 3 weeks, but this was deferred. Could I have the clerk give me the recorded vote of who voted to defer this?
I realize it was deferred.
Mayor Jordan, stop cutting me off. I'm speaking. Mayor Jordan, stop it.
That's your first warning.
Can the clerk, excuse me, Mayor Jordan, can the clerk please just give me that recorded vote? For the deferral, to move this back to me.
I'm
clerk's
offended by his behavior.
Chairing the meeting anyways.
Yeah, Councillor Sharp. Yeah, that was your first warning, your formal
Point of order,
warning.
Mr.
So
Mayor. You shouldn't be participating in debate unless you leave the chair.
I wasn't participating in the debate.
You have the right to rule, but you did join in the debate and made statements, which is also inappropriate. If you'd like to join in the debate, you can leave the chair and ask the deputy to take over.
I'll just chair the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, so then through the chair, could I ask the clerk to please?
The clerk
give me
is
the
looking it
recorded
up now,
vote
Councillor
on the
Sharp.
deferral?
The clerk is looking it up now, if you would let me speak. Yeah, we're going to just have to wait because the clerk's having to look it up.
So the point I was making, if I have the moment while we're waiting, is that 2 weeks of this wait time was due to the deferral, which I believe that Mayor Jordan voted in favor of.
Councillor Ritchie, just a point of clarification, if I may. The people that voted on deferring felt, and even Councillor Cadwell felt that same way, that there needed to be more questions answered. And that's why we're here today.
And so, but when the point was brought up by the mayor, which I felt like you shouldn't have been participating in the debate, but that point that you put into the debate was that this has been 3 weeks afterwards. At least half of that wait time has been due to the deferral. And so that was as a result
Councillor
of.
Sharp, we can go around and round in circles here. The point
That's
is,
what I think we are doing, is going around in circles, and I want to just
yes,
get to
you are.
I'll support the motion as is.
Thank you.
Speak.
Yeah,
Am I-
Sarah?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. So just to clarify, there was a motion on April 19th, which was defeated. There was a motion to pass a motion which stated resolve that report Finance 2106 Banking Signing Authorities dated April 19, 2021 be received, and that updates to the Banking Signing Authorities Bylaw 2128 as outlined in Appendix A be approved, and that the bylaw to appoint banking signing officers be approved at the April 19th council meeting. And yes, I have Councillor Dunstall, Councillor Ritchie, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Vane, and for no, I have Councillor Bothwell, Councillor Frake, Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Vardy, and the Mayor Jordan. And Mayor Jordan.
And then was there a deferral motion? Or no, it wasn't deferred, it was just defeated.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's right. My apologies. It was defeated by those individuals, not deferred. So we had the opportunity more than a week ago, and the amendment now comes up a week later, and I voted in favor. And we have a legal opinion that was an appropriate thing to do. So that's what I'll do again tonight.
Councillor Bothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I would just reiterate, Melanie, I'm going to need you to clarify this as well, that the bylaw that was presented to us on April 19th was faulty. It had incorrect information in it, and had it been passed, it would not have been valid. It had the town manager in that when we don't have a town manager. We have a chief executive officer. It also had titles in there for manager procurement, which was not valid. It was any manager within finance. There was a number of things that you found in that bylaw that you have amended in this version, and had we passed it, it would not have been correct. Is that true?
So through the mayor, I don't know that I would go quite that far. I think that we clarified some language. So in the previous version that we presented to you, we said any one manager of finance, and there was some interpretation question around who the managers in finance were. And so we've clarified that language for you in the bylaw that's in front of you this evening, with the intent of making that more clear so that there wasn't the need to interpret the bylaw. So that's really the main clarification. And as a result of that, we also clarified some titles to make sure they were 100% in alignment with the titles in your organizational structure. Had you have passed the bylaw last week, I don't know that that would have been faulty. The intent of that bylaw, I think, is very consistent with the bylaw that you have in front of you this evening. But obviously, I'm not a lawyer and can't speak to that.
But it would not have agreed with what was on file with the bank. We have the chief executive officer on file with the bank, and we have a resolution that says town manager when he is not appointed as a town manager. So is that not a discrepancy right there?
Yes. So through the mayor, I would say that the titling is inconsistent. I believe that the bank would, had that have been passed, those titles are, they go hand in hand and they're used interchangeably across the sector.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Excuse me, they're not interchangeable. And the bank has clearly said in their documents that the title must be specific to the person who's signing and owns it. It says those, like, that's basically what it says in the resolution, the corporate resolution. So I would not agree with you respectfully that any title can be put on a banking resolution and the bylaw can differentiate from it. And I would not say that you can interchangeably use those. So I would respectfully disagree with you on that. So I appreciate that. The other point I just wanted to make about the lawyer's letter, actually Don Mascaren's letter, was that he makes a statement here that is very clear. These actions should be ratified by council to ensure that there is no issue as to whether the town had authority to take such actions. By that statement, I would ask Mr. Mascaren, that is he implying that there is an issue? Because he wouldn't, why would he say to ensure that there is no issue as to whether the town had authority to take such actions? So I would just put that, ask Mr. Mascaren that question. Thank you.
John?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bothwell. Yeah, I wrote that on purpose because I suppose someone could come back and say, hey, those weren't the correct signing authorities. You didn't have the resolution of council at the time. And so there could be a question as to whether they were correct or not. So I don't disagree with you.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Cadwell.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Jordan. Clarification, I did vote to defeat the resolution. Get rid of that thing. Oh, well. I'll leave it for now. Because I wanted to get more information, and I'm very happy with the information that is in this report. To talk about the resolution a week ago, you know what? It was voted by council to defeat it. So it's defeated. So let's try to move forward here with this report, giving good information that I think is what I was looking for. So I don't know. We're just keep going back and forth, back and forth. Let's try to move forward. Those are my comments. Thank you.
CAO.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. I respect council's comments when they disagree with our advice, but I would hope that you would work with me that some councillors stop attacking personally and just disagree maybe with our research. But I strongly support what Melanie and the team has done in their report. I respect that council could disagree with it, but saying she's personally disagreeing with someone that has subject matter expert in this field I'm just hoping you could work with me that it's not personal, it's more about the issue at hand. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't see anything personal there, but seeing no further questions, I'll read the amended resolution. Moved by Councillor Bothwell, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that report FIN 21-08 banking signing authorities dated April 26, 2021 be received and that
Point of information, Mayor Jordan. The motion isn't amended yet. We're voting on whether or not to amend the motion. The motion hasn't been amended. I would like to vote on whether or not we're going to amend the motion.
Right?
Yes, sir. The mover and second to bring forward a motion to amend.
Yeah. So I read this, right? Yeah. Thanks. I'll continue. I'll start over actually, Councillor Sharp.
Could you answer my point of information?
Yeah,
was
the clerk.
Was this amended or not amended?
Councillor Sharp, stop interrupting, please.
Point of information. Was this amended or was this not amended?
All
Before
right.
you read it.
Why do you keep asking me? I'm trying to talk to the clerk now. All right.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there was a motion to amend and we have a mover and seconder on that. So that motion has to be addressed first.
So to the clerk, are we now voting on the motion to amend or are we voting on the motion as amended? Because I heard the mayor read the motion as amended. And I don't remember voting on whether or not to amend the motion.
So who's the mover and seconder on that one? So what we need to do, we need to have a mover and seconder on the main motion, and they can.
I'll move it.
Sorry, Mayor, point of clarity.
Yes.
My motion was the only motion on the floor. There was no other motion on the floor.
Yeah, so this motion takes precedent.
My motion would be the main motion because there was another motion.
So the clerk's ruling that the recommendation is the main motion?
Right.
Councillor Ritchie, did you want to comment?
I just wanted to know, do you need a seconder for the main motion?
Yeah, you want to second it, I
Sure, I'll
suppose.
second it.
So do we,
So is a mover and seconder agreeable to a friendly amendment?
so now I ask, is the mover and seconder agreeable to a friendly amendment?
No.
No.
Point of clarity again, Mayor. I didn't think staff could bring forward motions. I thought only council members could bring forward motions. That's a recommendation in the report, but they can't bring forward a motion.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to confer with the clerk on this and get a ruling.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Councillor Both will put a motion to amend. If there's no motion on the floor, then her motion doesn't stand either. So you have a.
It was to amend the bylaw, Councillor Rich.
No, you don't. No.
It was to amend the bylaw.
No, it was not to amend the bylaw. Go back and listen to the tape.
All right, because we have a mover and seconder on a motion to amend, we can address the motion to amend first. And then if it's defeated, move back to the main motion. All right, yeah. All right, so the motion to amend is moved by Councillor Bothwell, second by Councillor Frey. Resolve that report FIN 21-08 banking signing authorities dated April 26, 2021 be received, and that updates to the banking signing authorities through amended bylaw 1637 as outlined in Appendix A without Section 6 allowing a retroactive effect be approved, and that the amended bylaw appoint banking signing officers without Section 6 be approved at the April 26, 2021 council meeting. Recorded vote. Any discussion? No.
Councillor Bothwell,
Yes.
Councillor Dunstall,
No.
Councillor Frake,
Yes.
Councillor Cadwell,
No.
Councillor Ritchie,
No.
Councillor Sharp,
No.
Councillor Vane,
No.
Councillor Vardy,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
That's defeated.
All right. So now we move back to the main motion. Moved by Councillor Sharp, second by Councillor Ritchie. Resolved that report FIN 21-08 banking signing authorities dated April 26, 2021 be received, and that updates to the banking signing authorities through amended bylaw 1637 as outlined in Appendix A be approved, and that the amended bylaw to appoint banking signing officers be approved at the April 26, 2021 council meeting. Recorded vote.
Mr. Mayor, could I just have a point of clarification from the clerk?
Yes.
Sarah, if I believe that this motion is not legal, am I better off to abstain or vote no? I mean, I don't want to give it credit by voting on it what's the proper procedure here?
Well, if you do abstain, it is recorded in the negative, but if you do have any legal concern or legal counsel is here, so if you wanted that addressed, maybe John can do so.
John, if I'm really uncomfortable with this, is an abstention a better way to reflect that than a no vote?
Mr. Mayor, is the question now directed to me, Councillor Vardy?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Councillor Vardy, if you're at the council table, if you do not vote, it goes to the negative. So an abstention is not really the proper course. You have to leave the meeting to show your lack of agreement with what's happening. But if you stay here, as the clerk has pointed out, the fact that you abstain just means it goes to the negative.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councillor Sharp.
Thanks, Mayor Jordan. To John Mascaron, I just wanted to clarify, you said earlier that this motion or this recommendation is legal.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct.
Okay, so in case Councilor Vardy was wondering, we have a lawyer here, and he says that it is legal. And so a vote to the negative or an abstention is a vote to the negative or an abstention. And it's not a symbol. And so if you're looking for a symbol, I don't know where you're going to find that, but I'd like to, if everyone's willing to call the question.
Move forward. I don't think I need Councillor Sharp to explain things to me. Thank you.
Through you, Mr.
No, thank
Mayor,
you, Councillor.
the resolution was read and now we had a recorded vote requested, so I'll be reading the names. Councillor Bothwell?
No.
Councillor Dunstall?
Yes.
Councillor Frake?
Definitely no.
Councillor Catwell?
No, no, sorry, yes. Sorry, I apologize. I'm supporting the report from staff.
Councillor Ritchie?
Yes.
Councillor Sharp?
Yes.
Councillor Vane?
Yes.
Councillor Vardy?
Nope.
Mayor Jordan?
No.
That's carried.